I didn't continue thinking that way, right? Kind of lost my way. When I was 29, my kids got really sick. We had just moved to Utah, and one of my kids is really allergic to penicillin, and I took him to the pharmacy. So I've got these little boys, they're laying down on jackets in the shopping cart, they're sick as dogs, they just could not get over it. The whole first winter we were here, every time they'd get a stuffy nose, ear infection. My two oldest had the worst propensity to get these horrible ear infections. So they're laying on these jackets and they've got fevers, and we've just left the doctor's office, and I go to get the prescription and they say, okay, that's going to be $100 and something, blah, blah, blah dollars. And I look at them and I'm like, for antibiotics? And they're like, well, your one son's allergic to penicillin. And I said, well, I know his antibiotic is a little more expensive, but $100 and something dollars? And they go, well, you don't have insurance. And I said, yes, I do. I know I have insurance. I have insurance through my husband's work. And they're like, well, they say you don't. So I call him, and I'm like, I'm here getting the kids medicine, and they say we don't have insurance. Oh, let me call you right back. I'll figure out what's going on. And so he calls me back, you know, my company, they're shopping around for new insurance, but they said just to go ahead and pay for it and we'll get reimbursed. And I'm like, hold the phone. Hold on a second. They told you that we don't have, they're just shopping around for insurance? They dropped everyone's insurance? That's illegal. No, you know, things work different here in Utah, which oddly enough made sense because we had just moved from California and everything that happened with the building of our house was like, would never fly in California, but it's actually what happened here. So I was like, well, that's true, I guess. And that was my first red flag. And that...
The very first one?
The first big one. The first, like, what? And it was about 4 years of just that over and over and over and over again. And my mindset shifted. From everything always works out for me and life is really great, it's easy, I don't understand what people are complaining about, to, oh my gosh, this is hard and this is not fun and I am not enjoying this. Like, this is hard, right? Like, single mom, I'm going to school, I'm starting a company, this is really hard, but I'm doing it, you know. And one day, speaking of starting a company, Ariel worked with me. And we did really hard things. We did sales, business to business sales, like stopping a stranger on the street sales.
In parking lots.
In parking lots. It was terrifying every day. And one day, and because that job was so hard, I had to do these, like, every single morning we would do these huge meetings, right? Like, get everybody pumped up for the day. All right, you guys, we'd tell some motivational story. Someone else would get up and tell a motivational story. And this one day, I was trying to coach my guys on, if something's not working for you, you gotta change it up, you gotta do something different. And I yelled at them and I said, guys, what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over again without expecting a different result.
And they all yelled that back at me. It's doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And I swear the air in the room went BAM in my face. Like, I went, that is exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing the same thing every day and, like, mad that my life isn't getting better, that I feel the same. I'm working hard, I'm doing everything they tell you to do, I'm doing it, but I feel miserable. And I could not figure it out. And I was so mad that I couldn't get back to feeling, just so you guys know, I wear this here, so if I cry, which I put Kleenexes on everyone's table. So I was really mad that I couldn't figure out how to get back to feeling that way. Now, that moment, that, like, I'm doing the same thing over and over again, I started, well, what do you do now? What do you change? What do you shift? Well, the only thing I could think of was to meditate. And so I started trying to meditate, which, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we have, like, sensory input overload all the time. It's here, it's in our pockets, it's on the television, it's in the car, on the radio, it's everywhere. And we have so much stuff trying to gain access to our brains. For me, trying to meditate, like, I wish I had video of me because I seriously was like, okay, I'm gonna meditate. And I was like, I'm not letting that thought in. Oh, I've gotta go. I'm like, And so my first meditations were like, I'm
More tense than you were.
Totally more tense than I was before, because I was having to be so. And when you start to pay attention, the stuff that's coming in here is terrifying. It's terrifying how much stuff is like just bad, stupid stuff, bad stuff, and you're not even aware of it, but it's there and it's running all the time. And so my meditations, okay. And I just kept practicing. I kept practicing, and pretty soon, I was like, I'm doing it. Oh my gosh, I'm doing it. I can shut them out. But it wasn't easy. Like, it took a lot of practice. Like, I hear people go, I started meditating, and I'm like, how was it for you? And they're like, oh, it was great. I'm like, it was so hard for me when I first started meditating. It was really hard. And then being aware of what's going on in your head, you're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on in my head. So my son graduated from high school last year, and I'm going through all of this meditation, and I started reading everything I could read, listening to positive podcasts, only beautiful music. I just started, so if I walked into a room and something was on and I didn't want to hear it, I would turn around and walk back out. Like, nope, I'm not doing it. I've worked way too hard to have to like be able to shut it out, to just walk into a room and let it in. So my son graduated from high school, and all these parties are going on, kids are coming in and out of the house, and I'm like, are you guys so excited to graduate? And most of the time, the answer was, actually, I'm really scared.
Yeah.
I was just so baffled. I was baffled, because we've talked about this. I did not feel like that when I graduated. When I graduated from high school, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's going to be friggin' awesome! I am so excited. I had no clue what I wanted to do. None. My first semester in college, I took a beginning jazz dance class, vocal technique, and the history of motion pictures. I mean, I did not, but I was like, well, I love this stuff, so I might as well learn it. Then I took an English class the next semester, started doing those things, but I wasn't scared at all. And I've noticed that this generation that's coming up are scared. They have anxiety, they're off on themselves, right? Like, we hear about my kids they play music, and the album cover comes up on the TV, and every time I walk through, I'm like, good grief, how, they all look like they're on heroin. They all just look so depressed, and I'm like, is this guy still alive? No. Is this guy still alive? No. Is this guy still alive? No. And that's what they hear, and that's what they see all the time. So I started becoming very aware that this was something that, like, the generations before us, man, if they were frustrated, they were outside working, doing things. They were able to sort of work it through, work it out, whatever. This generation doesn't have that.
Well, so much is expected of them.
So much is expected, but they don't have the tools to go, okay, all right, they're just stuck in this fearful place. They're on sensory overload all the time. And no one is teaching them how to not think that way.
Because everyone else is on it.
Well, we're getting there, right? I never felt this way as a kid.
So the whole system is there.
We're shifting. Anyway, so I'm, think about my son. He struggles emotionally. He gets anxiety. He worries. He had cancer, which gave him even more anxiety. But so I'm trying to figure it out for myself and figure it out for my son. And I'm reading everything I can find. And I ranted on Facebook one day, I am this close to living the life that I want and still missing it completely. And someone dropped a link to a book called The Jackrabbit Factor on my post. And I was like, what is the Jackrabbit Factor? It basically takes the laws of attraction, which is positive thinking and what you really think, and how you get what you think about. It does frame it for you in a way that you go, oh, instead of, because you always hear it, think positive, and you're like, I'm trying. I'm really trying, but I don't feel it, like I'm thinking it, but I don't feel it, which is what we'll tackle today. All of a sudden, you're going to see how your brain works, and you're going to go, Oh my gosh. But, so I started reading all of this stuff and studying everything I could. I would look up for free because I was out of work when this happened. So I'm like looking her up on YouTube, I'm listening to all of her podcasts, I'm subscribed to all of her emails. And one day, I'm sitting on my bed and my computer goes bling, it's like 11 o'clock at night, and I look and it's an email from her company. ThoughtsAlive.com, have you ever considered being personally mentored? And I was like, no. And it's like $3,000 too, to be personally mentored by her. And I can't even afford her $30 course at the time, right? Like, I'm just like, no, I'm sort of a figure it out on my own kind of girl, right? And I'm sitting there thinking about it. Well, I don't have the money for that anyway. And all of those things start popping into my head. And I went, you know what? If I really want something to change, then I'm going to act differently. And I filled out the application. Even though I had no idea how I would pay for it, I filled it out. And they said, thank you for filling this out. You'll hear from us within 2 days. 5 days went by, and I had heard nothing. And so I shot off an email, and I said, hi, I'm just checking to see if you guys got my application. My name's Jen Diaz-Avedo, and I got an email right back from the author. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm supposed to have an alert set up that lets me know when these applications come through. I didn't get one. Why do you think I would be a good mentor for you? And I messaged her back, a couple of things, and she messaged me back again and said, okay, how do you feel about this? And I started to craft this lovely letter that made me sound like I had all my stuff together, and I just really think, and then I just went, no, that's what I would normally do, is make it sound like it's all pretty, and I'm just gonna let her know where I stand. And I told her stuff that nobody on the planet has heard. I just emptied everything out and said, well, this is it. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm going through. And she emailed me back instantly and said, I feel so honored that you would share that with me. I'm so honored that you would feel safe enough with me to tell me all of those things. And I want you to email me whenever you need. If you need anything, we'll talk about it. So she started mentoring me for free. Yeah. So we're going back and forth. She's got all these programs that I want to take, but I still, there's a $300 one that I want to take, and there's no way I can pay for it. And even if I had the money, I couldn't justify spending it. And so we're going back and forth in these emails, and I said, hey, are your books on Audible? I really want my son to listen to these books. And she goes, oh my gosh, they're not. We can't get any of our files to pass anything to be up on Audible. And I had been working at Azevedo Studios. And I said, I just went through that with signing time and trying to get all of the new files to pass their new requirements for signing time. And she goes, do you know how to do it? And I said, well, I did it for Amazon. Audible's a division of Amazon. If I can't figure it out, I know someone who can. And she goes, I'll send you the files. So I'm like, Dad? So Dad says, he goes, I remember he's coming down the stairs, he looks at me and goes, what are you hoping to get from this? And I said, a $300 course that she offers, I'm hoping that she'll let me have it. And he goes, okay. So he goes upstairs, he figures it out, 24 hours, less than that, the first one. All the files are passed, we send them back to them. And in the meantime, I'm doing all of this stuff and thinking, there's this new generation that needs to learn this stuff, and if anyone could teach it, I could, because I've certainly been on both ends of the spectrum, right? I know what it feels like to be like, life's great, la la la, and oh my gosh, just take me now. So I start learning everything that I can. She and I start talking about me teaching it and mentoring and this, that, and the other. And I go to my first Genius Boot Camp, what you guys are at, down in Mesa, Arizona. And I get down there, and we're sitting there, and on one of the breaks, we get an email that says, Audible has accepted all of your files. This book is now available on Audible. I know, it was really exciting. And I was sitting as a student in one of her classes, and so everyone was like, yeah, super excited. And anyway, here we are. And this is how I ended up becoming a teacher. This is why I ended up coaching